right, peace and greetings. I'm gonna wait until get some people start showing up, then we're gonna go ahead and begin. Just bear with me here. And then we will get started. Alright, we are live. I'm gonna get right into it once everybody starts filtering in. Then we will begin. All right. All right, it's going to give everybody like a minute or two to get here, and we are going to go ahead and begin. All right, what am I doing here? I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, I'm kind of going to just get right into it tonight once everybody gets in. Obviously, I'm just going to go through some quick announcements. I got to stay within a pretty tight time frame. Keep it to about 9:30ish. And we'll see how they go. All right, just get things set up here. All right, peace. Akpan, peace. Fleet.
Look at what he's done over the last 9 games.
All right, just going to give it another minute or two, get everybody to file in. I'll go right to the announcements, and then we'll get right into the material. So just hang tight. I'm not going to waste too much time tonight. Going to get right into it. Again, due to the fact I got a lot of personal stuff going on that I'm working on. So time is of the essence right now. Time is very important to me right now, because I've always talked about making use of your time is a form of magic, and that's what a lot of people struggle with on this path. Unfortunately, they don't utilize their time correctly, and they just don't get things done. They don't get the results and the things that they need done. But it's part of the process. All right, so in about a minute or two, I will begin. Just gonna give it another minute or two because I do not want to have to repeat myself. All right, we will begin shortly. So we'll make sure we got good connection. Again, last week we had a little issue with a stable connection. So please, anybody, if you sense that the connection is bad or it's skipping, please let me know so we don't have that issue we had. I think it was last Thursday. All right. So if there's any issues with the connection, please type in the chat if that does happen like last time. Apparently it was going on for a while, and then finally somebody had text me and to let me know. So if that goes on, please type in the chat, let me know. Because I would have canceled out and came back in, but everything looked good on my end. Now, I'm assuming that was something with YouTube, though. I'm almost certain it was. When we had those little difficulties last week, I'm almost certain it was. But if any of that stuff goes on tonight, please type in the chat box and let me know that there's something going on with the connection. And then we could check with other people if they're having the same problems, then we know. So again, apparently that happened. We had some of those issues last week. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna hold on. Let me just check one last thing before we get started here. All right. What day was that? It was the 20th. Today's 20th. Yeah. Okay. That was Saturday. All right. All right, so let's do this just to make sure. Can somebody that's watching and that's in the, or somebody in the chat, is the feed and the sound clear? I just want to make sure. If you could just type in yes, anybody, I don't care who it is, just to make sure we don't have any issues. Okay, we're good. All right, I just wanted to make sure. I'm just checking my end, my internet connections, solid. All right, I think we're good. We're just going to go ahead and begin as people starting to file in. All right, let me go through a couple quick announcements before we get into the material. If you do follow the Primordial Chaos page on Facebook and Instagram, outside of subscribing here to the channel, obviously make sure you subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe to the channel, you will get notifications, not just of upcoming shows, but also I do post latest information too on the community page, which also, if you're a subscriber, it automatically notifies you. Again, I got a couple emails this week that people will say, "Oh, I'm not getting a notification when you go live." Just to reiterate, sometimes it's YouTube. I don't know, but sometimes people are not aware that you also, when you subscribe, if you want notifications of any time, when you get a notification of any time a video posts or a live show going on like now, if you've tapped the bell option on the page where you see the subscribe thing, that also notifies you anytime anything new posts or anything goes live. So sometimes people are not aware that they don't check the little bell icon when they subscribe to the channel. If you have done both of those things and you're not getting notifications, I don't know what that is. People email me all the time. I have no control over that. It could be, something with your device. I don't know. But just all I can assure you is subscribe and hit the notification bell so you do get notifications of any new things that post. But also, in addition to here, if you also follow the channel on, as I said, on Instagram and Facebook, we are Primordial Chaos on both of those platforms. You probably noticed I posted a bunch of upcoming shows pretty much over the next 2.5 months. We got a bunch of shows coming up that's going to actually kick off this Thursday. So let me run through them for those that may not be subscribed on those platforms. We got some great shows coming up. We're going to kick it off this Thursday night, which is July 25th. We're going to have Bokor Rodney Coleman back on the show. As you know, Bokor Rodney Coleman is a family lineage initiated Bokor in the New Orleans Hoodoo Voodoo Pantheon. For those that do know him and his work, he's a very knowledgeable, educated brother. He does a lot of powerful work. He knows his craft. He has a rich history, not only in his lineage, but he knows the whole history of the voodoo hoodoo traditions that originated in New Orleans. And one thing, what I like, as I said, African witchcraft and sorcery and magic, I've said before many times over the last couple of years, I used to, as you know, my background, I did come up through Ifa/Santeria Palo. And those things were okay. But now, if you ask me, how do I still apply working with some of those energies/archetypes, deities, be it the Loa, the Odishi? I've always stated I utilize that methodology now on this path, the voodoo hoodoo systems that have its origin here in America, out of Louisiana and New Orleans. I think that's important for a couple of reasons. One, I like the system, though some are very critical of it, saying it's not traditional, it violates some of the other systems. Well, if you're coming from a traditional perspective, yes, that's going to be your opinion, and you're entitled to it. Look, everybody's entitled to have their own opinion and perspective, but it gives you more freedom to work a lot, because in the voodoo hoodoo pantheon, you will see aspects of working with the Odishi, You'll see aspects of spiritism, working with many different aspects of these paths. And that's why I like it. It gives you that fluidity. There's not that restriction. And I found it to be a very effective path. And as I said, I'm going to leave it on a quick note and move on, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday night. As I said before, sometimes, melanated people or blacks, Latinos, or Asians that practice some of these Afro-Caribbean religions, as they call them, which have their roots in ancient Africa, we tend to always go outside the United States to connect with our origin, as if America we don't have strong, rich history and roots here. And the Voodoo Hoodoo Pantheon is probably the foundation as far as being on American soil, bringing a lot of those spiritual systems here. We have that connection right here on American soil. And I think that's important to understand, because sometimes we can get so enamored with Africa and Egypt and we forget right what's in front of our face. But that's one of the main reasons I love about the Voodoo Hoodoo Pantheon. And as I said before, you never hear me talk about that going back to Africa stuff, because I don't have no plans for that. I don't even care. If that's your thing, that's your thing. We have a great, rich history here. So we should be proud of that. All right, so we're going to have Bokor Rodney Coleman on Thursday night, the 25th, 8 o'clock. We're going to be talking about dark sorcery, African magic, witchcraft. We're going to kind of get into some of those more darker aspects of that path, which Bokor specializes in. Okay? That's on the 21st. Then the following week, and I'm trying to remember all this. I should pull up the damn calendar, but let's test the memory skills. And again, all this is posted on the Facebook and Instagram Primordial Chaos page. All right. The following Tuesday, which is going to be July 30th, we're going to have Raven Hecker here talking about how, for you females, it's not just a female show, but obviously when we get some female sisters on here, we want to focus more on female topics, because sometimes it's just a bunch of dudes running their mouth. And why I booked all these shows for the next 2.5 months, I kind of want to fall back, take a little bit of a break. So I felt like now was the time to bring in or bring back a whole long list or row of guests. That's why I've done it. So on July 30th, we'll have Raven Hecker here teaching on activating your black magic woman powers. We'll be getting into different aspects of the path. We'll be talking about working with herbs. We'll be talking about a whole bunch of different aspects, more a little bit of the shadow self, etc., and some other things. So that's going to be on Tuesday, July 30th. Then Thursday, August 1st, we finally have gotten Father Sebastian back on the show. As you know, Father Sebastian travels a lot. He travels not just within the United States, he travels all over the world. He does a lot of events and functions. He's extremely busy. We had him on, I believe it was back in March. It's been a while since he's been on, February or March, I'm going to say. So he will be on August 1st, at 8 o'clock. And we will be talking about different aspects of the works in his books. We will talk about different vampiric techniques, spiritual practices, such as astral travel, meditation, the absorption of energies, and to dispel the myth of the vampiric path. Because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions. Because some people don't fully understand it. I don't think they grasp it, and they have their own interpretation of it, and that's fine. You're entitled to that. But as you know, when I talk or do topics on vampiric spiritual practices, it's of a spiritual nature. There's no vampires are just a modern term for a system of absorbing the energy of the gods. It's about absorption and giving of energies. We don't literally discuss some of the modern day folk vampire aspects of literally drinking blood and things of that nature. Now, there are some modern day people who practice forms of that, who do, but that's entirely on them. That's not the path. When I'm talking about it or advocating, it's a very highly spiritual system that is not for everybody. And I've talked about that from day one, and I've been doing shows on that for the last several years, on and off. I don't talk about it a ton. I do utilize aspects of it in certain areas, but it's a very highly intense spiritual path when working with energies, and it's not for everybody. Father Sebastian, who is very well known in the vampire community, for many, for not just for putting on events and rituals, but for his knowledge and his wisdom. And if you read his book, Vampire Magic and the Vampire Necronomicon, I'd recommend you check out some of his work. So we'll have him here on August 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Father Sebastian, author of Vampire Magic and some of his other books. Well, again, we'll be talking about various different aspects of vampire spiritualism, all right, or spiritual practices. Then, I'm trying to keep track of all these damn dates. Then as we go into the 6th, okay, yeah, August 6th, the next show, which will be Tuesday night, August 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Al Cadman back on the show. He hasn't been on in a couple months. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Citra Acra, the void and darkness, the realm of the void and darkness, the other side. We're going to continue, take that discussion to another level and talking about the demonic realm, the void and the darkness. We're going to discuss some aspects of his most newest and most recent book. We'll be back on the show Tuesday night, August 6th at 8 o'clock. And as always, it's a great show when he comes on. And we really go into it in depth. I think everybody enjoys those shows, and I think you'll enjoy the show we got planned for August 6th. So that'll be Tuesday, August 6th. Then on Thursday, August 8th. I'm trying to keep up with those damn dates. I'm doing a good job of remembering them, so I'm testing my memory. So on the Thursday, August 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to have Sister Oni back on the show. She's going to be talking about a very intense, powerful subject, self-realization, self-understanding. She's been in the midst of some intense shadow work. She's going to share some of that information with us. I think you'll get a lot out of it from what she described briefly to me today, what she's been going through and working with, not just going through. So she'll be on the show breaking that down on Thursday, August 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, bear with me. The next week, hold on, I'm going to get this. I don't think we have anybody on the 13th and the 15th. No, I think that weekend as of right now, I'll probably be doing shows that weekend. I have no idea. I'm going to see if I could fill that slot because I'm trying to fall back for a couple months. But I know the following week on August 22nd, which is Thursday, we are going to have Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum back on the show. I talked to him earlier this morning, and we're real excited about this show. One thing he shared with me, his book, Dark Light Consciousness, which has been out for a few years, but it's getting a tremendous response, and they're getting ready to put it in audio book via his publishers. There's been a huge demand for it, so he's excited. He's excited every time it comes on here. He sees the growth with that. So we're going to talk about ancient civilizations and modern science from the Dark Light Consciousness book. He's real excited about the topic. I am. It's a little bit different from what we've talked about in the past, but it's an area of interest of mine for many years, though I may not talk about it a lot, on the channel, but we'll be going over that. So that'll be on Thursday, August 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I think the only other show I forgot, which is September 14th. That's going to be a Saturday show, okay? That's because this will be the third time we've brought on Richard K. Page. He's a well-renowned Luciferian and author out of the United Kingdom in Great Britain. But we bring him on Saturday afternoons, obviously due to the 5-hour time difference. So I posted that show real early. I spoke with him earlier today. So we will be doing that show on Saturday, September 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be after the online class sessions are finished. So that'll be the week. The last week is September 7th. So we're going to do that show the following Saturday. That's a special Saturday, 4 p.m. start time. I put it out there today, so it's out there plenty early, just so people are aware of it. And again, every time, this will be the third time Richard K. Page has appeared on the show. We have to do it at that time due to his being in the United Kingdom and being in a 5-hour time difference. So those, I don't think I missed anything. Those are the upcoming shows over the next 2.5 months. And I do plan on trying to fill, I only have a couple of slots in between there. I believe it's that 1 week in August and going into September. I will try to fill that. So going to be a lot of shows coming up starting this Thursday, kicks it off. I'm excited about it. I figured let me try something different and try to run all these concurrent. I think it'll be a little bit of a change. And then by then, I'll probably get back to getting in the groove of things. All right. Other than that, I know that took a little bit of time. Other than that, let me just also throw out there, online classes have begun. Can't sign up anymore. We had our first session this Saturday. So all those that are in the online classes, I'll see you guys this Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know the schedule moving forward, going into September. For all those that did sign up, I give you my thanks and gratitude. I appreciate you signing up. As always, I enjoy doing those sessions. Those are fun. It just it's more personal time. Excuse me, allergies are acting up a little bit. It's a little bit more personal, and I really enjoy doing it. So those are underway. So you can't sign up for those classes no more. Next session I'll probably do sometime started in probably November, going into early January like we did last year, but we'll deal with that down the road. The event in October, the 25th to the 27th, don't forget about that. Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 2. That'll be the weekend of October 25th to the 27th. Already a couple of you that are coming have requested to present. That is still open until the itinerary is filled up and there's no more spots. So if you have a topic you want to present on, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to get you on the itinerary. Bearing room is still left. Consultations and readings, as normal, 2 days out. If you're interested in a consultation or a reading, hit me up, specify what kind of reading you want if you have a preference. It could be a reading with the Orishi, a reading with the Loha, it could be a reading with the spirits of the dead. It could be a reading, excuse me, with the Goetia or the demons of the demonic or clipothic realm. Just specify if you have. If not, I kind of instinct and choose with whatever comes naturally. About 2 days out for that, and I saw before I came on, a couple people have emailed me for Blair. If you're watching, I saw your email. I'll get back to you probably tonight. Try to set up something. I know some people had sent the work they did in from the class. I'm supposed to get to some of that today. I'll try to get to that tomorrow. Got jammed up today. All right. So just when you email me for a consultation or a reading, specify the days and times you're available in your time zone. Very important. All right. As I said, I ain't going to get too long-winded with it tonight due to the sake of time, because I do, again, I'm in the midst of work that I started. Been almost 2 months now, but I still got probably another month and a half to go to get finished with what I'm working on the side. So I want to talk about set. I've done several videos in the past. You can see in the archive. I try to get into different aspects of set. I'm probably going to go a little more in depth tonight in the area. We know Set is a very intense deity. Now, I titled the subject because we always know about the fury, the chaos, the intensity, the energy. But I put the word in the title renewal because that's what all those words lead to. And that's what I think is the most important thing to understand about working with Set. that sometimes gets mixed in all the intensity, because all of those aspects of the fury, the chaos, the rage, all of that stuff is productive, excuse me, in the sense that it leads to that renewal. I've gone over in many videos in the past the misconceptions and the historical aspect of Set. I'm going to go through a little bit of that tonight. As we know, mainstream philosophers, religious people, or people that just don't really understand ancient Egypt and the role Set played in it, have basically, from a religious perspective, demonized Set. Set, you run into a lot of people that study or deal in comedic circles, and they still paint this God devil image that Horus is this Jesus type figure character, Set is some evil demonic being, and that still comes from a subconscious mind, from a religious perspective, whether individuals are aware that they're doing that or not. It's very religious. Because they don't know what it really symbolized and represented. We're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the Set Horus story. Not going to get too much into that. I've gone over that before in the past. You can see that in past videos. But we want to talk about working with Set for transformational change. All right. All right. This is important because one of the many masks or faces of the adversary, but probably, in my opinion, as far as raw intensity, comes straight at you. And let me address something else. I want to make this clear, two things. With guests that I bring on the show and another email, I've received 2 emails. I want to make this clear. Some people will send me email, oh, why are we discussing this, or why are we discussing that? Why can't we do this? Look, I don't bring guests on the show just because I agree with everything that they teach or say, because I don't. Just like I've said before, I don't expect the listener or guests that I bring on the show to agree with everything that I teach or talk about. It's just to give different perspectives and then leave it up to you, the viewers, to utilize that information how you see fit. That's all. Not everybody I bring on the show, we see 100% things the same way. All right. So, I mean, if you have your own opinion and interpretation of a spiritual system, that's fine. Doesn't bother me or faze me in any way. Just like I'm not really fazed, or if there's something I listen to somebody else teach, and I may not agree with it 100%, I'm not fazed by it to the point where I'm going to respond or retaliate. It's a waste of time. I don't care. I got more important things to do than worry about nonsense like that. Because people will send emails, because I received another email. A couple of things I want to address. Well, just this last thing. I already addressed the first one. I'll constantly get emails in regards to, what I like. If it's not that, it's people caught up in their feelings because they might be mad because something doesn't agree with their personal belief on something, or their personal outlook on something. I really couldn't care, to be honest with you. It's the best way I could put it. It's just as simple as tuning out and not watching the channel. And what I'm talking about is sometimes you'll talk about a topic. I received an email from an individual. They were religious, in the midpoint of the email. I mean, I caught it in the beginning. It always seems when I do the topics on Lucifer and religion, it strikes a chord in certain religious folks that they will send an email and get a little all hot in the collar. I'm not going to get into the gist of it because, again, it's a waste of time and energy to me. But I'm just going to address it as a whole. I want to make this as simple and clear as I can. I'm not interested in your personal opinions. I'm not interested in what you like or you don't like. So you might want to save that precious time and not even wait until you send me an email in regards to that, because I don't respond. I'll respond just in general here. I just don't care. It's the best way I can describe it. I don't even want to sugarcoat it. It's as simple as if it amazes me how people will stay locked on your channel, spend all that time watching, and then turn around and flip to say that they're angry about something they don't agree with. See, what that usually tells me is deep down inside, it struck a chord or a nerve within that individual, and they're wrestling with coming to terms with it, because it really, whether they're conscious of it or not, it made them see things in a different light, but they're just not accepting it. So that's something you got to wrestle with personally. I'm not, but really don't care. Not interested. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, moving forward, just so we're clear on that. And I got that email in reference to, I think it was, they must have caught one of the uploads of is the biblical Jesus Lucifer. That didn't go over too good with religious people. Hold on, I just got to get a tissue, blow my nose real quick. Excuse me. All right, so let me go through the small amount of material I got. I'm going to go through some key facts. We're going to talk a little bit about working with Set, doing some rituals, understanding the current, the energy. I've always recommended when you're working with these darker, intenser energies, please do your research, get acclimated with them. It's as simple as maybe doing a basic invocation, a meditation, absorb the energy of that deity and see what it feels like to you. Don't go right into some in-depth, detailed work, and you may not fully get the gist of it, and it may not be beneficial for you, okay? So I'm going to go through an excerpt from the Draconian Ritual book. There's a small section in there on Set. I've talked about this book. There's another good book on Set here, Set, the Fury of Egypt, that recently came out a couple months ago. I've mentioned that book. A lot of good ritualistic work in there for beginners and advanced practitioners. Working with that dragon, intense Luciferian aspect of Set. Is it for everybody? No. If you're serious about your work with Set and you're willing to embrace the god of chaos and storm, something I did probably officially in a ritualistic ceremony back in 2015-ish, 16. Great books. Just good for beginners, middle, if you're in the middle, kind of just on the path, or advanced. All right, so Set is an archetype of the adversary, god of storm and change. Key word there, change. I can't stress that enough. Remember, anything you do on this path should involve change and evolving. We don't do anything from a religious, repetitive standpoint. People that belong to those dogmas, philosophies, and religion, they just do the same routine week in and week out. We don't do that. We're constantly trying to grow, evolve, and change. The principle of dynamic transformation. He is an ancient Egyptian deity, originally the god of the desert and scorching rays of the sun, and the patron of outlanders. The exact meaning of his name is unknown, but it is often translated as the one who dazzles, pillar of stability, or the one who is below. As the god of the desert, Set was related to sandstorms and deadly powers of the sun. Because of the extreme desert climate, he was considered to be a very powerful deity, one of the main gods in the entire pantheon. And he was also the patron deity of the Hyksos dynasty, worshipped at the time as the chief god. His other names were Sitesh. You will see here some of the Greek names too in here: Sutek, Setek, Seti. And remember that name Seti, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. You'll see there was a lot of pharaohs that took that name. And as I said last week, I think it was Thursday or Tuesday of last week, remember, when a pharaoh incorporated the name of a deity in their name, no, actually we were talking about this, I think, in the Saturday classes. I got it mixed up. There's a lot going on simultaneously right now, so I might get some things, events and times mixed up. We were talking about when you see that going on,
And any pharaoh you see that had the title Seti in front of the name, they have become like a Set. They mastered the mysteries of the deity Set. That applies to anybody who called themselves Heru or any other of the deity names. They were raised up in the mysteries and reached to certain levels where the priesthood or the Sem priesthood recognized them as an equivalent to the deity intellect-wise, knowledge-wise. This is why some people get confused as if there was one incarnation of these particular beings or deities. There were many, just like it was the same thing in the Ifa pantheon. There's not one Shango, one Obatala. History can get a little twisted because it can appear to be contradictory. So anytime you saw that name Seti, that was a pharaoh who had raised himself up as a master in the mysteries of the deity Set. And that applies to any other particular deity. All right. All right, so we went through the names. Seti, Suti, Seten, and Smai. Because of the word Tesseret, which in Egyptian means desert, and is very close to the word Tesher, meaning the red color, Set came to be associated with all. This is why you just see him depicted sometimes with that color, with the red hair, which we're going to get into in a second. Set became associated with all that was red. Red desert, red sun, red flames, red hair, which he was often depicted in his art. His most familiar depiction, however, is an unknown animal or a typhoonic beast with a curved snout, square ears, forked tail, and canine body, which bears no resemblance to any other animal. I've talked about that before. People have said he looks like a hog, it looks like a canine or a dog. It's got, what animal is it? Reason why it's never been clearly identified what animal Set symbolically represents. It's not supposed to be. It represents that pure chaos. There's no defining it. It doesn't have a description. That's why we have to understand that there's a science behind that. People have given many different theories of what kind of animal it is, and all of them are only just scratching on the surface. It hasn't really nailed it down to a T because none of it is 100% fact. So in its appearance, symbolically, it's chaotic. All right. Then it continues. In Egyptian myths of the underworld, Set was the defender of Ra during the journey through the realm of the dead, slaying the enemies of the sun god every day while traveling with him in the bark of millions of years. I've talked about this several times and over the course of years in videos, what this is representative of symbolically. Okay, as we know, Ra, as the story is recorded, spent from shadow evening time to the morning dawning of the sun, which is symbolic of I did a video not too long ago on this, Ra's journey in the underworld, right? He spends all his time trying to destroy chaos or slay Apep, right? There's a lot of symbolicism here. He struggles to do it because you can't destroy the chaos, it's energy. If he doesn't realize until Set steps in and intervenes, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's what makes Set unique via his isolation and just in the uniqueness of his birth, which we're going to get to in a second. He has it all wrong from the beginning, Rob. He's trying to destroy and kill chaos rather than make order out of it. He doesn't fully understand the chaotic energy. He just looks at it as a threatening force that he thinks he can eliminate, but doesn't try to master or control it. Symbolically, Apep or chaos manifests and incarnates to us mentally and in our thoughts, as I've said many times before, from the midnight hours till the early morning, just like Ra. But we face it on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level via our fears. And when I say fears, I'm not talking about being scared by the boogeyman. I'm talking about our concerns. our worries. A lot of us, when those night hours come, sometimes we find ourselves struggling to get to sleep because we have the worries of the world on our mind. That's Apep manifesting. We're worrying about paying bills. We're worrying about maybe we got family problems, relationship issues, money problems. So Apep manifests mentally within your mind during those chaotic late night hours. And that's why we always say on this path, the best time to do ritualistic work is between hours from midnight till dawn, because there's so much raw, chaotic, nocturnal energy that exists. And your neuromelon is the most activated in those nocturnal hours. There's a science behind all this. It's not a coincidence that Set is associated also with the color black. And Set is also associated with, as we know in the story, being the one who knows how to keep Apep at bay. Because remember, it says Apep continuously resurrects himself every other day, which is symbolic of us shedding, like as it says in the book of the Coming Forth by Day, and I believe it's scroll 8 or papyrus 8, where it talks about shedding your skin, shedding your snake like a skin, only to be reborn and resurrected the next day, which is symbolic of you, the resurrection of you taking that chaotic energy and making order out of it, resurrecting or remanifesting the new you. So when you read in the story how Set steps in and intervenes on his father Ra's behalf and is able to control the chaos, he makes Ra see his ways that were incorrect wrong. When you read the story in the Book of Gates, over this in depth in a video I did a month or two ago, something like that, back in June, I think it was, the journey of Ra through the underworld, it talks about symbolically when Ra takes that journey approaching each gate, and he gets to Apep the first time and he needs assistance going through. Until he gets that knowledge and wisdom of how to master and make order out of his chaos, until he encounters Apep the second time, and I believe which comes in gate 8 after the first time, which was 3 or 4. Can't remember offhand. What he does is, second time he's able to get through all this, because he now has the knowledge. Instead of trying to approach it falsely, instead of trying to approach it falsely and thinking he can just kill it, he knows now the science to master it, and he's able to pass through the gate with no issues. All of this comes by way of the activation of the black of Set. Well, as I said before, that story is directly in correlation to all of us who are on this path as adepts and magicians, right? We are that is a science we apply to ourselves, where every day we are mastering our chaos and making order out of it. We are embracing the chaotic energy that comes with this path, and not as a negative factor, but understanding the science of it, and how we, by mastering it, how something that is presented on the surface can appear to be something negative, but we're able to use it to empower us, to make us transform, regenerate, renew ourselves, or remanifest, as we say, Kepera, and remanifest. Anew us, the God us. Set brings that out in us. That's why he is the only unique and different deity in ancient Egypt, where he's the only one that doesn't fall under the lines of conformity, which we're going to get into, okay? All right. Where the hell did I leave off? Okay. So he was around, he was a defender of Ra during the journey through the realm of the dead, slaying the enemies of the sun god every day while traveling with him in the bark of millions of years. From being a powerful deity, Set was also a benevolent god, often associated with sexuality and virility, very raw and sexual in nature. He was also a friend of the dead, the crowner of pharaohs, and the patron god of soldiers and warriors. With the appearance of the well-known story of Osiris and Isis, or he killed Osiris and dismembered him so that he could not be resurrected. Set came to be associated with violence, disorder, and became the adversary. Ancient Greeks identified him with Typhon, the primordial dragon monster, and attributed to him So when you're working with set typhoon, as some say, it's buffering. Anybody else? Anybody else see the feed buffering? Let me know, because I know we had that problem last time. Nikita says that maybe it could just be her connection. Anybody else having buffering issues? Please let me know so I can go check. It's good. All right. Not sure, Nikita. That might be your connection. My connection's showing strong. All right. So we got a couple people saying it's not buffering. Okay. Black Tower said earlier. All right. So we see a couple people saying I'm not sure. I'll keep my eye on it, but my connection looks solid here. I don't see anything here. I don't know. It just seems like when we talk about something, these damn YouTube people playing. I don't know what the, not to sound spooky or conspiracy theory, but it's like when we're getting into some in-depth shit, it wants to cut up. All right, I'll keep my eye on it. I'll peek in and out. And what I'll do before I get to the questions, I'll go into my room where the modem is. I'll just make sure all the lights are on. But my connection here looks stable on the computer, but I'll double check that in a minute. All right. So yeah, set typhoon is that aspect of, as I said, it affiliates him with chaos. You're working with the chaotic aspect and the set, because it affiliates him with the primal dragon monster, or chaos as we know it. Excuse me. In this sense, he embodies the forces of chaos as opposed to the forces of natural order, the aspect of set typhoon. For this reason, he is also often identified with the Apep or Apophis, another primordial serpent. So there is that serpent Kundalini energy, or draconian dragon energy in this, which is a very popular aspect to work on him, something I utilize a lot. It's very raw and aggressive. I actually just finished a series of workings last week with Set that I was working on. I'm moving into something else this week, which I actually will begin tonight, where I have to get off of this at a certain time. And I noticed in that series of workings, even though I say it's raw intensity and power, it's also shrouded and I would say encased in high levels of knowledge and intellect and wisdom. It's the best way I can describe it. Out of that rawness, out of that aggression, out of that fury and chaos, what I notice comes out of it when it's all said and done is a very clear understanding of things, a very clear understanding of yourself, a very clear understanding of your immediate surroundings, the people you're affiliated with, your circles you walk in. You're able to put your life in a deep retrospective. You're able to analyze and be very critical of where you currently stand in your positioning in life, what you're doing good, what you're doing bad, areas of your need of improvement. This is the knowledge and the wisdom that I gained from doing a lot of this work with Set. That's what Set does. He chops away all of the illusions that you have about yourself. It's buffering. Anybody else buffering? I don't know what the fuck is going on. Give me a minute. I'm going to go check the modem. I'll make sure that the lights are. Anybody else got buffering issues? It just seems like for some and not for others. I don't know what it is. It could be aliens taking over the platform. I don't know. Let me stop clowning. All right. Let me ask a quick question. Anybody that's claiming the buffering, are you having any bad weather there? I know we have a little bit of lightning and thunder and mild rain here. Not sure if anybody that's had a couple people that mentioned buffering. Are you having any bad weather there? Any thunderstorms or rain? It could be that too. I'm not sure. All right. So that's what I noticed. Set did. Outside of all the fury and the raw intensity, it's a very high level of spiritual wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. That's the best words I could put it into. Inner awareness of self and everything around you, and it gives you the knowledge you need to make decisions moving forward to fix things. All right, Because that's what this path is about essentially. How do I do work on myself and apply it to these systems to bring about that change that I need to be the best me I can be? Okay? This is important. Set does that. That's why I think, in my opinion, the Eye of Lucifer work is probably very close in intensity with Set. There's similar in my work, and I can only speak on my experience and the vibrational frequencies and connection with it. As far as the energy, it's very similar in nature. But what Set is a monster in the sense that he's kind of got the spiritual, the Malcolm X approach by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? That vibe doesn't give a fuck. You know, he's not concerned about your. He's not concerned about coddling you to make you feel good. He's not concerned to give it to you easy. You know, he's not concerned in, coming down on your wavelength, to make you feel comfortable. That's why I said in the beginning of the video, if you're working with some of these intense energies for the first time, do something basic at first to get acclimated with the current. And that could be as simple as focusing on the sigil of Set. It could be as simple as lighting a black candle, creating an invocation or an existing one, and maybe touching it up to your needs, and then doing a meditation on Set and see what you absorb. See what you tap into, see what you get. That's going to be more effective, because that is like, in a sense, it is on one level a work of aspect of shadow self, because what you're doing is to find out how you're going to react to it, how you're going to connect to it. Okay, so if it does feel good to you, it does feel right, and it does make you or motivate you to continue doing more work, then you might want to seek out doing more in-depth, detailed work. I've always said that with any deity, it's always good to just do a simple meditation, invocation, focusing on a sigil with this deity are great starting points. You'll know, because I've seen it go the flip way. Some people will tap into it and they're like, nah, I can't. It's not for me. No, it's just not for me. That's doing your due diligence. That's preparing yourself. Excuse me. So that would be my suggestion with that. All right, I have one little more section. Then we're gonna get right into questions. So if you got questions, or if you got some comments that pertain to the subject, just go ahead and type them in. All right. So, but another myth, Set himself fights the serpent together with the other gods, assisting the sun god on his journey to the underworld. So there we see Set, and again, if you're familiar with that story, here we see Set again. Excuse me. Assisting Ra in his journey. Now, really, that journey through the underworld, as I said in that video back in June, that represents us as the adepts, the gods and the goddesses, going through the void and the darkness and encountering the demonic realm and addressing every aspect of ourselves, getting ready and willing to really know our true selves. That's what that journey to the underworld. If you didn't see the video I did back in June, go check it out in the archives. And I connect all that. So that Ra's journey through the underworld is your journey. That's the story of you when you enter this path. Because you've now made the commitment, I'm going to go into the void and the darkness, the primordial chaos, and really get to know myself. Because this is the only true solution to becoming a master, a god, or a goddess. Right? And that's the beauty of this path. And that is one of the goals we're trying to obtain. I say it all the time. The greatest gift in the world is knowledge of self. Don't come on this path just for the physical, materialistic things, because if you have knowledge of self, everything else falls into place. You're going to get all those materialistic things. And it's just me, and I'm not telling people what to do. I've always lived by the principle, if you seek knowledge of self first, everything else will come. And I even take it to a mundane level, and I use biblical quotes to explain that shit to people, right? There is a quote, I use two things. There is a quote in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, where it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all things will be added unto you," right? Solomon mastered that principle, because remember, look at yourself symbolically as a Solomon when you are presented with the choice of coming on this path. Now remember, as symbolically the story goes, Solomon was given the opportunity by his so-called God. He could have anything he wanted. Now, what did he ask for? He didn't ask for all the riches on the planet. He asked for the wisdom. Right? And then we saw what happened. Solomon had all that financial stuff was added to him. He was the biggest player pimp. He had money out the yin yang. He had females, harems. He traveled all over the world because he didn't seek that first. You too symbolically should enter this path, like a Solomon, seeking the wisdom and the knowledge of self first. And then all things will be added unto you. The money, the hoes, joking around, or the dudes, if you're a female, or all the luxuries and all the pleasures and materialistic things you want will automatically be added unto you. It's just my word of advice. Now, if you just want to come on this path right out the gate, strictly materialistic, power to you, do your thing. I guarantee you won't be probably consistently successful. I work with my students, initiates, clients in consultations, anybody that has worked with me over the years, anybody that has taken my classes the last couple of years. And I have people that, I have returning people with new people all the time, but I have a core group of people that constantly return to take the cycles of classes because they know the information is geared on the precept of changing, evolving, and growing. And the first principle that I always present to my students is knowledge of self. See, it's always a red flag to me when I get emails from people, I want to do, or even in consultations. It's not to be judgmental or downplay anybody. Give me some, and I give it to them and it works, but they usually are inconsistent with, yeah, can you give me some rituals on money magic? Yeah, I can give you a bunch of rituals on money magic. Then they go and do it. They get results right out the gate. Then just because they made a little chunk change, they stop. And they forget about consistency, knowledge of self, applying themselves on a consistent basis. And they don't get that level of results consistently like people who do apply the knowledge on a daily basis or have true knowledge of self. So that's important to understand. But that's the principle I stand by. I've always approached it when coming on this path. I always want to absorb and learn information. I want to get that knowledge, but not do I just want to read it, study it redundantly, and just know it and then repetitively spit it like a lot of people do. I want to be able to apply that knowledge. I'm absorbing and taking in all this knowledge because I want to be able to take that knowledge and apply it to my everyday life so I can master what I love to call the 5 P's or principles of the path to self-mastery, which is mastering yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially, in that order. And notice financially is at the bottom. Not that finances is important. I'm not saying it's not. But in my opinion, that should not be the first goal you're seeking on this path. You should be seeking, when you first come on the path, shadow work, getting to know yourself, understanding those things about yourself that are good and that are bad, especially the things you need to work on. That should always be step 1. That's part of the knowledge of process. That's part of the process of knowledge of self. All right. So let me finish with the rest of the small section. And then I'm just going to go double check that connection. It appears to be okay, but I'm going to go double check it. All right. As an opponent of Osiris, he is a symbol of strife and dynamism, and opposed to comfort and stagnation, meaning set. As the slayer of Apep, he is the emblem of triumph over blind chaos. One of his names is Seta, meaning God of infinite future. This represents his function as the initiator of the path to infinity, the one who awakens the dragon force within and lifted to the stars so that man could become one's own creator. Therefore, he is one of the most powerful archetypes of the lords of the left-hand path. He is not born in a natural way, but he rips himself violently out of his mother's womb, tearing out his way to manifestation and self-created being. Represents the isolated consciousness, and I've talked about that before. This is one of his unique aspects. He was not birthed into the universe according to the Egyptian stories. He ripped himself from his mother Nut's womb. He didn't wait for her. He brought himself into existence, which also is symbolic of remanifestation. So from the very time that he emerged from the womb of Nut, he was making the statement, he is a nonconformist. He does not identify, as it said up here, when it talked about the slaying of Apep. He is opposed to comfort and stagnation. If you're looking for a comfortable, fluffy bunny deity to work with, hey, let me tell you this. This is not the one, people. This is not the one that's going to cater to your emotions, as I said earlier, and coddle you and here, get on my lap and let me. It's not the one for you, people, because he is completely opposed to comfort and stagnation. He's constantly about evolving and changes. Then it talks about, again, briefly here, the slaying of Osiris. Yes, I know in Kemetic circles, they make the story so religious. Oh, they said it represents the devil. Osiris is the Messiah. These are people that claim to be beyond religion. They don't deal with religion. But yet, there's so much subconscious religion in that theory that it's sickening and gross. Okay? It's sickening and gross. What, as it said here, the slaying of Set, destroying or slaying Usia or Osiris, right? Excuse me. Represents you, as I've talked about this several times in the past, you destroying or slaying the weaker aspects of yourself. Osiris represents those weaker things about yourself that you must perfect through your shadow work. Set is the slayer of those. Set represents the God nature or the goddess nature, the power that you need to work or destroy those things about yourself that you need to reconstruct. So that story is talking about a higher self. I'm using basic terms that the masses can relate to. That is the story of the higher self slaying the weaker or the lower self. I mentioned this, I think, one time before. Back in, I think it was 2014. I did this intentionally because I knew people would react a certain way. And I remember talking, I think it was Jack. We were talking. I said, look, I'm going to put this post up. I found this picture online. And I thought this shit was funny. This was at the time of the first Facebook page we had, which, as you know, we have a new one now. But at that time when the channel was called Mother Nubia, I also, in the beginning when I had that channel a few years back, I had a YouTube, a Facebook channel connected to it. But I obviously, canceled that because that became a nightmare and fuckery. But anyway, so I said, I believe it was to Jack, I said, look, so I found this cool picture online. It's a picture of, it almost looks like Set is bitch slapping Osiris. It almost looks like that when you look at it. Like he's like, silky, my pimp hand is strong, like almost if he backhanded him and his head is back. You guys have probably seen it. I posted the picture a few times. I might find it again and repost it if you didn't see it a few years ago. So as a joke, I said, I put the caption on at that time on the Facebook page. I put the caption, picture of Set bitch slapping Osiris. That's what I put on the caption. And then I think I also put slapping his ass into next week. And I did it intentionally because I knew all the religious Kemetic people would be in an uproar. Here comes people with all their personal morals. Listen to this stupid ass shit. First of all, let me say this on this path. If you have a personal definition or perception of what's moral, what's your boundaries or what's sacred, that's your personal opinion, and that's fine. You're entitled to that. But don't get upset when somebody else does not perceive what your definition or perception of what's holy or sanctified or sacred or what's crossing boundaries. I can only speak for myself, and I know there's probably many other people. I don't live within those parameters on this path. I don't think you can fully embrace this path if you have a mentality like that. And again, that's entirely up to you. So I don't really deal with that religious bullshit. To me, it's subconscious religion. When you try to, and let me give you, here's an example of why I'm saying it. So I get a bunch of emails about the picture. Oh, that's disrespectful. Oh, how can you say that about the divine father? How can you say that about the most? What the fuck is the most high Osiris? Is there such a thing? Does that exist? I never heard of. So I'm seeing how people are again, still subconsciously engulfed in a state of mental fuckery and confusion, where they're still looking at Osiris as this Jesus, Messiah, God, religious character, and Set as this devil, demon, religious type character. Everybody was in an uproar. And again, I remember saying it, watch all the religious spookies start to respond. And it was mostly Kemetic people that claimed to be so deep in their Egyptian and Kemetic studies. Look, as I said before, and I said it to them back then, if you don't like it, it's as simple as tuning out. But the very fact that you need to respond to that shit shows, and it was a test. And I remember saying to the brother, I said, look, let me show you how weak-minded people are and how quick they respond off of their pure emotions, to show that people are reactionary people first before they're proactive. If they would have looked, if it would have been as simple as to look into it more, but because you've been programmed that Osiris is this holy figure like Jesus or Muhammad is in religion, you think it's unholy or blasphemous or it's unsacred, to put a picture like that out and say that. Well, all I can say is I couldn't give two shits. It's symbolic. If you don't look at it in that light, I don't care. How many times I got to say that? But it was a little test I did to show how people would react. Man, I must have got over 200 responses to that picture, and it was funny as shit. Funny as shit. So don't look at this from that religious mindset. You're going to get confused. I don't even really know, what does the word holy really represent? What is holy? As you say, pure, undiluted, sanctified? Well, that may not be the same thing to somebody that works a different. Pure and holy and undiluted to me is the realm of void and darkness, because it has no parameters. It has no limitations. It is the embodiment of pure, primordial, chaotic energy in existence. Okay? Whereas a religious person or somebody that has a religious mindset might think something holy and pure is, some mystical being in a white robe, or some spiritual system that claims that they're pure and sets these rules and boundaries that if you go against the grain in opposition to what we've set, that makes it unholy. Now, as I said before, I don't roll or vibe like that. I don't really care. Your morals and your personal standards of morals, just that, is personal. I mean, everybody has their own set of morals, but they may not line up with another individual's. I'm not interested in your likes, your dislikes, or your personal perspective on some things. You should have a personal perspective on some things. That is one of your goals, but you should also accept and understand not everybody's going to have the same perspective that you do. That's all. That was my whole point. But the picture was funny. I might post it again just to see and watch all the hoteppers come out of the woodworks and have shit their pants. Oh, that's so disrespectful. And shit, get off the page. I could put whatever I want on my page. And just as I can do that, you don't have to like it. It's as simple as you leaving the page. It's that simple. I don't go on somebody else's page and bitch and complain about what I like. If I don't like your shit, I just don't go on there and I'm done with it. It's over. All right. So he That's the slaying of Osiris, which represents the defeating of stasis and shattering the old thought pattern, the triumph over death itself. Now, when we say death itself, we're not just talking about physical death. Many clients I worked with through consultations and readings, a lot of times what comes up in readings, because they're usually going through some serious shit in their life, and that's usually why most people contact you during a reading, because they can't figure out some of the things that's going on and they're experiencing. And a lot of times what will come up, and people I work with can attest to this, they're going through a death. And I tell these people, you are going to die many deaths on this path. And I'm not talking about physical deaths, I'm talking about spiritual and emotional deaths. You will constantly go through them. That's part of the change, transformation, and growth. One of the spiritual deaths most experience when they first come on this path is radical change and an upside down disruption of their everyday life. What do I mean? Their friends, their circle of friends changes drastically. Sometimes it can break up a marriage or a relationship. Sometimes it could bring an intense career change in business or job. Just a whole bunch of shit can come out of the woodwork chaotically right out the gate. And they don't understand what's going on. Most will attribute it and think somebody's doing something to me, somebody's working on me. It's not that. 90% of the time, it's just you're not embracing or seeing the change and what's getting ready to happen around you. So that's what that means when the slaying of Osiris is represented by the slaying of triumph over death itself, spiritual, mental, and emotional deaths. You will experience this many times over. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? So that takes the spookism out of it. His fiery nature represents his lust, fury, and passion. The force of desire, which is the driving force on the path. And his flame is the divine fire, the inner spark of godhood, which through the work of the left-hand path becomes the fiery pillar of ascent. Ascent is symbolic of raising yourself up, growing. Okay? This is, why I say understand or having that knowledge of self is going to be your greatest weapon on this path. And understanding it, being familiar with it, and comfortable with it. All right. So what we are going to do, I'm just going to go double check. I don't see anybody else complaining, but I just want to go make sure my modem is good. I'm gonna blow my nose again. So like I say, I'm getting a little minor allergies the last day or two. So give me a minute to do that, and then I'll come back and take the questions and comments. on already. Everything appears to be fine on that, and I don't see any issues with the left them there. All right, so I'm just going to go through the questions here. Stay on for about 15 more minutes. I do have to get off. Quick reminders, if you came on late, upcoming shows. I did post on the Primordial Chaos Instagram page, the Facebook page. We got a lot of good shows coming up. I booked shows for the next 2.5 months, and I still got a few more that are going to be added. And it's going to kick off this Thursday. So this Thursday night, Bokor Rodney Coleman will be here live. As you know, he's a family lineage, through his lineage, initiated Bokor in the New Orleans Voodoo Pantheon. We're going to be talking about dark sorcery and dark magic from the voodoo perspective. That's going to be this Thursday. Then next week, Raven Heck is going to be on talking about activating your black magic woman powers. For all the, not that it's just a show for females, because it's not, but we'll be talking about different aspects of black magic. She'll be talking about working with herbs, different rituals, shadow work. We're kind of going to be just bouncing all over the place, but you'll just be hearing it from a female to give them a feminine perspective, because sometimes you get tired of hearing it from me and other dudes. All right, so that's going to be on July 30th. That'll be next Tuesday's show. And then on the 1st, Father Sebastian will be back on the show. As you know, he travels, as I said in the beginning of the show, a lot, travels all over the world. He is back in the States. I spoke with him late last night. He will be back on the show Thursday, August 1st. He's well-known, renowned in the vampiric community. He does a lot of events and functions. I know a lot of you that have been following my channel are familiar with his books, Vampire Magic, Vampire Necronomicon. We're going to be talking about different aspects of vampiric spiritual practices, such as astral travel, meditation, healing, things of that nature, which is really what the vampiric path is really about, the absorption and focusing in on energy. So he's going to be here August 1st, 8 p.m. Then flipping into the week after that, which is the 6th, August 6th, Bal Cadman will be back on the show. We're going to be talking about the Citra Aqua and the realm of void and darkness. We're going to get into some of the demonic realm in depth, touch a little bit on his most recent book. So he'll be back on the show. That'll be on August 6th. All right. And then on August 8th, Sister Oni is going to be back on the show. She's going to be talking about a good topic. I spoke with her via text earlier today, and she's going to be talking about self-realization and self-understanding. And it's some of the stuff she's been working with, some of the shadow work she's been doing recently. So she's going to share some of that with us and some of her experiences and work, I think will be really beneficial. So Sister Oni she'll be teaching that class on August 8th. Trying to remember all this shit. Then going into the following week, which is, the fuck date is that? That's the only week we don't have some. The next week, which would be the 13th and the 15th, I'll probably do something there if I can't get somebody a guest on. I'm trying to get guests on for the next 2.5 months. I'm trying to fall back and take a little bit of a break. But then the following week, August 22nd, we will have Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum on the show. I actually spoke with him this morning. We had a brief conversation on the phone. Just to put this out there, he is real excited about coming on. His book has, even though it's been out a few years, has taken off, and his publishers are getting ready to do an audio version of it. That's how big the book is getting. So we talked this morning, and he wants to discuss out from the dark light consciousness the topic of ancient civilizations and modern science. As you know, that's his field of specialty. So we are going to talk about that. He's going to be here August 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to talk about ancient civilizations and modern science from the Dark Light Consciousness book. suggest you get these books from these guests. If you don't have them, start reading them. Have your questions ready. We always say that. Get your questions ready for when they're here. Dark Light Consciousness is a phenomenal book. It gets, man, it goes in on so many levels, from an occult, metaphysical, historical aspect. A powerful book. And then on September 14th, I also spoke with Richard K. Page this morning. December 14th. Let's skip 3 months. Let me show you where my mind's at. September 14th, Richard K. Page will be back on the show. As you know, Richard K. Page, who's a renowned Luciferian and author of books on Luciferianism. He will be here live from the UK. Now, that show is a Saturday. This will be the third time Richard's been on the show, but when he comes on, we do it on a Saturday. Due to the fact he is in the United Kingdom and he does the show live, and they're 5 hours ahead of us. So anytime I bring Richard on, it's always going to be on a Saturday afternoon. So I put that out real early, and we planned it a little bit in advance to give people time, if you know, because we don't usually do any shows on an afternoon. So mark that down on your calendar. All of this is posted here on the YouTube page. It's on the Primordial Chaos page. It's on the Facebook Primordial Chaos page and Instagram. So he'll be here September 14th to talk about the path of a Luciferian. We're going to talk about some different works. And what he did tell me today, and it looks like it's going to happen, he has a book that should be released before the show. He said there's a good chance the book will be out right before he does the show. And that was one reason why we kind of pushed the date to September, in hopes that he can get the book published and out by the time he makes the appearance on the show, so we can kind of talk about it. But that's what we got coming up, and I'm probably going to add a couple more guests to it. But we got a bunch of shows, and that's going to kick off starting this Thursday. So we're booked solid for about 2 months. I just felt there was time to change it up and bring back some of these guests. I like to bring those guests, and I'm looking for a few other new ones that we haven't brought on, because I feel they represent the different topics that I talk. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying I agree with everything that they talk about, just like I don't expect them to agree with everything I teach or talk about. I bring guests on to give you guys a different perspective. All right, so let me shoot through this real quick. That's the announcements. And again, if you need to contact me for a reading or a consultation, the email's in the box. Shoot me an email. Specify what kind of reading, if it is a reading. If you want a reading with the Goetia and the demonic realm, if you want a reading with the Orishi, if you want a reading with the Loa and the Voodoo deities, let me know. If you want a reading with the spirits of the dead, specify. If you want a reading with the Orishi, specify. If you don't have a particular, then I just go with the flow. I go with whatever comes. Also, if you want a reading, I keep always mentioning, forget that one, with the Natira, the Egyptian Natira, I do readings with the Egyptian runes, if you're interested in that type of reading. So just specify that, your days and times you're available, and your time zone. All right? And the event in October, the 25th to the 27th, I'm just running through this shit quick because I'm pressed for time. Just shoot me an email for any of those things. All right, let me go up to the chat, try to get through some of this as quick as I can. I'm going to skip peace and greetings to everybody. If I didn't greet you personally, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody supporting the channel. Again, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get your notifications when a new video or a live video posts or goes on, or I go on live. The channel is monetized. People send me emails. How can I support the channel? There's 2 ways you can support the channel. If you go right to the bottom of your chat, there's a money symbol. I do appreciate somebody made a donation. I'll acknowledge you in a minute. You can make a donation right here to the channel if you click the money symbol. I don't really ever ask. I just mention it. Not mandatory, but always appreciate it. Or you can go to PayPal and use my same email address. If you want to make a donation to the channel via PayPal, you can also use canoom19@gmail.com and go to PayPal and make the donation. People always send me, how can I support the channel? Again, you can do it right here while it's live. All you got to do is click that money symbol at the bottom and you can make a donation. Always greatly appreciated. All right. So peace and greetings to everybody, and I appreciate everybody who supports the channel. All right. Let me look for the questions. Oh, and let me not forget the meetup and class we're going to have in New York on August 17th. For all those in the New York City area, I have the list, or I think we're up to about 10 or 12 now. If you are in the New York City area, we are going to be meeting Saturday, early evening. August 17th, we're going to meet up at 34th and 7th Avenue, right in front of Penn Station over there in Midtown Manhattan. We're going to get a little bit of grub, and then we're probably going to walk down to 6th Avenue in the Americas, right there on the corner of that big park. We're going to have a little build session in a class. It's going to be like a meet and greet. We're going to talk. Be good for some of us to get to meet each other in the New York City area. I always enjoy coming home. Obviously seeing my friends and family, but it'd be good meeting with some of you guys. We're just going to have a free-for-all. Whatever questions or whatever topics you guys want to have a discussion about, we're going to talk about it. So if you are in the New York City area and you are interested in attending that event, shoot me an email and I'll make sure we put you down on the list. And that's going to be on August 17th. Forgot to mention that earlier. All right, so peace and greetings. Let's see what we got. Let's try to get through this. I'm going to skip all the personal comments amongst each other. I'm just going to look for questions or comments related to the subject. Okay? All right. Okay, I'm still not saying anything. Kiona, loving myself. I'm glad you finally caught a live show, Kiona, if you're still in here. Or Kiana, I don't know if I'm saying it right. It could be either way. I've seen it spelled, the name pronounced both ways, spelled the same way. So Kiana or Kiona, appreciate you tuning in and supporting the channel. All right, what else we got? All right, still looking for questions. Okay, good. Okay, I think we already answered that question. I know you typed it in earlier, 3:05 Capricorn. I'm going to say the time, we're aiming for early evening. We're looking like between the hours of 6 and 8 o'clock. I want to gather sometime around that time. Again, I want us to find a spot where we can all go in there and get a little bit of grub somewhere right in the area. I know there's a lot of shit over there. Get a little grub, something that won't be too time consuming, and then we're going to get together, chill, and build. And then go from there, whatever happens. Who knows? I've done these before in the past. Sometimes we wind up kicking it to the wee hours in the morning. We just kind of go with the flow. I figure Saturday would be the best night to do it. Most people usually, for the most part, are available on a Saturday and Sunday being the next day. I know now everybody, in this day and time have crazy schedules. They could work all different hours. But I figured that was the best day based on my time being there. I'm going to be there that whole week. Others have contacted me. Oh, damn, reminded me, I got to get back to somebody. About doing a reading when I'm there. I forgot about you. You just came to my mind. There's somebody I have to set an appointment. Okay. I am going to be available certain days if it works out for my schedule to do a reading in person. I won't have a lot of time to do that. Some people have contacted me and I've let them know the windows that I have available for that. So I will have a little bit of time for that, not a lot. I'm actually, part of the reason why I'm going to New York is kind of just to chill and kick back. I am going there to see family and friends. It's always coming home. Oh, man. Okay. I'm sorry, I had to get him on over there. All right, so yeah, around that time, 3:05 Capricorn. That's what we're aiming for. So if we don't have you on the list and you are interested in coming, just shoot me an email. All right. What else we got here? What else we got? All right, Jada Titan, I appreciate the 2 donations you made. Greatly appreciated, brother. Thank you. What else we got? Kiona, loving myself. I just did, if you go back in the archives, what I do have on my channel, actually, you can go back in the early portions, and recently, a few weeks back, I did some stuff on the Yazidi, working with the jinn. I did another video on jinn magic. There are some videos on working with the jinn. There was a video the last time Bal Cadman was on. We talked about his book, Working with the Jinn and Jinn Magic. You might want to check that video out. So there are videos in the archives posted working with the jinn. And I'll revisit the topic here and there. So definitely stay posted. But there are videos in the archives if you haven't seen them. I'm working with the Jinn. I would suggest maybe when you get some time, try to scan through them if you get some time. All right. All right, what else we got? Yeah, and I see Raven Hecker and Black Tower all commented earlier when we were talking about knowledge of self. It will strip away the illusionary self. And again, if you weren't here for when we were talking about that, that should be your main objective when you come on this path. I know some people come on the path because they want to work money magic or sex magic, or they want to get all this power. It doesn't work effectively like that. You really want to first, if you seek knowledge of self, everything else comes. Trust me when I tell you that. And that's part of understanding the core of shadow work, because shadow work essentially is true knowledge of self. That's true, real knowledge of self and how it pertains to you. Not this illusionary bullshit. Not we all came from Egypt, or we're all this, we're all that. That's somebody's construct of what knowledge of self is. We're not talking about on just a historical level. We're also talking about true knowledge of self and understanding your nature, your spirituality, your connection in the scheme of things. Being real with yourself as far as doing a thorough critical analyzation of yourself, being real with yourself, admitting what your faults are, what you're not good at, and embracing and strengthening your strengths, what you are good at. That is the core principle that's connected to the concept of knowledge of self. If you have true knowledge of self, get all of those other things, the materialistic things, the money, the wealth, the pleasures, all of those things will naturally come. Trust me when I tell you. All right. What else we got? Yeah, Brian E., that is a very good book, Second Apep by Michael W. Ford. A good read. It's something I've used many times over the years to do some classes here on the channel. Matthew Watson, what's a good deity to deal with depression and low self-esteem and transmute that into productive energy? It's a very good question. All right. Now, if you're asking this for yourself, low self-esteem, depression, they definitely are linked. If you're dealing with something like that, this is just my opinion, you can work with road clearing archetypes, and I'll explain a few real quick. And you could work with archetypes or deities that deal with regeneration of the mind or intellect, or increase the capacity of the intellect. So I'll give you a couple. Road clearing archetypes pretty much can be utilized for any type of work. And that's why you always hear me refer to them. So what do I mean and who do I mean when I say that? But I'm going to caution you with depression to be careful, because some of the intense road clearing archetypes can be very powerful, and you may not want to, bring yourself into a situation that could be conflicting with, as you're saying, if it's your depression or low self-esteem. For an example, the Holy Death, or La Santísima Muerte, though she is a very warrior, intense-like clearing energy, she has this, again, very motherly-like nature to her. Though it's not really like, as I described with Kali, tough motherly love. There's not a soft weakness to it. It's firm, but at the same time, when you feel a little bit of that firmness and aggression with her energy, It also can be very, I'm trying to use the right words, tenderizing, if that's the right fucking word. I know that might sound like tenderizing meat, but she has a way of being compassionate, but not too soft to get you in a comfort zone, if that makes sense. If you always approach her like a devoted child, and I'm saying symbolically, not from a worship standpoint, but just in your approach with the energy, because how you would work with a road clearing energy, it's as simple as invoking that energy to clear your path spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. And you might want to specifically include, so like what you're dealing with, if that's you, the depression and the self-confidence or lack of self-esteem. It could be as simple as writing this goal down on a parchment paper, drawing her sigil on it, invoking her and placing it under her image, and then simply charging or lighting a black candle to spark that petition that you have requested. Just little simple things, basic things you can do in working with this deity. I would start there, working with the aspects like, or concepts like that are not complicated, that just require a bit of energy on your part. As far as a deity dealing with getting the mind solid and right, I've always suggested to people in the past, Obatala is a great deity with that. If you work or are familiar with any of the pantheon, he deals with purity in the sense of intellect, enhancing the intellect. Tahuti is good for that, doing any work with Tahuti to get the mind focused on what it needs to be focused, because he does control the cranial nerves, the 12 occult nerves that connect to the function, the cerebellum, the hippocampus area of the brain, that connect to the wisdom centers, that link us up to where the neuromelanin runs on the brainstem, that connects us to what we call consciousness and awareness in the universe. I found Tahuti to be very effective for that, because he's symbolic of the scribe. He deals with the knowledge and the intellect. So just a couple of quick suggestions. I maybe might look in those areas and see if you can conjure up some effective work. What else we got? Jack the Adversary. Well, there's a lot of deities that deal with anger. Set is one of them, because he deals with fury. Fury is a form of anger. But we look at anger on this path. Anger is only bad if it's uncontrolled. Okay? Whether you are tapping into a deity that deals with anger, you should be using that anger to transform it for whatever work you're doing associated with that deity. Anger can be used to bring transformation and change. Anger is only bad when you're consumed and controlled by it. Okay? So Set is a great deity. What we're talking about tonight would be a perfect example. He deals with that. I find, in my opinion, as far as the second part of your question, 925 silver occult jewelry, I found most of mine on Amazon or eBay. When I go to New York, obviously it's a little easier because there are specific areas where I can find some street vendors or actual shops that sell it. I'm not sure what area or where you live. You might want to maybe check or see if you could do some research, unless you're in an area that doesn't have any cult shops. I would say you can find. I found plenty of shit on there. All right. All right. So Matthew, I see Raven kind of asked you a similar question. All right, man. I know you said you responded this to Raven. I'm currently dealing with Bastet and Ampu with some segment too. My thoughts are mainly revolved around not knowing myself and purpose. Okay. Now, you can use Bastet. Yes, she can bring transformation and change. Ampu is, you're working a deity that is a bridge from this realm to the spiritual realm. So you can adjust that concept for that. That would work. Sekhmet too, but I will give you a little warning on Sekhmet. I'm not sure what work you've done until this point. I would say be very conscious when working with Sekhmet, because she can be very tumultuous and intense. All right, what else we got here? A few more, and I think we finito. Okay. Jack's question, Jack the adversary. Yeah, well, so if you symbolically, your whole life is going to be one giant test question, because this path is always about facing challenges, but not just facing them, but mastering them. You never get comfortable on this path. There's always going to be that. All right, what else we got here? What the fuck? What happened here? Damn, this thing just skipped. All right, here we go. Oh, Ishra, Nocturnalist. Yeah, the lineup for the upcoming shows is going to be really good. I think it's going to be good for you, the viewers and the listeners, because I'm going to have them back to back to back. I mean, I'm just going to bomb you with them over the next 2 months. Bokor Rodney Coleman always does a great job when he's here. He knows his shit. And I personally got respect for the brother. I respect the work he does. I respect his commitment and his zeal and his fire. He truly loves what he does. And I respect that in anybody. When you look at a person like that, and I consider myself one of those people, I love looking at somebody who has that genuine authenticity and love for what they do. And Bokor Rodney Coleman does. He's engulfed in the rich history of voodoo. He knows the history of his upbringing. He knows the history of his home state that he was born and raised in, New Orleans. And he connects that all the way back to the ancient spiritual systems of Africa. And as I said in the beginning of the show, we have a great, rich history and connection via the Voodoo Pantheon out of New Orleans, which is our link here in America back to Africa. I get annoyed because some people are so busy trying to go back to Africa trips and Egypt this and Egypt that. And granted, I'm down with all that to an extent. We act like we don't have a rich history here in America. We're going to elaborate a little bit on that on Thursday night, a little in depth. So Bokor is always thorough on what he does. And Father Sebastian, we've had him on twice. We had complications one time where shit was going haywire. If you guys remember that show, that shit was crazy. And another time he had to break out real early. But we have that set up. So I look forward to getting him back here on Thursday, August 1st. So we got a good lineup coming up, definitely. What else we got? Okay, Natsumi. Okay, Nikita. Nikita's daughter, and she wanted to ask you, how do you work with Set if you're not left-hand path, like offerings, prayers, etc.? Okay, yeah. So let me stress this: you don't have to be left-hand path to work with Set. A good book, which is a little bit more probably on that vibe, the book Set the Outsider by Judith Page and Don Webb. Judith Page has a lot of invocations, rituals, and workings in there for Set that are not quite necessarily left-hand path. Don Webb's are more geared from a left-hand path perspective. She's kind of in that gray area in the middle. That would be a great book I would suggest that you tell your daughter to seek out. Excuse me. And it's loaded with different invocations, mantras, hymns, rituals that one can do and work with Set. So that would be my answer to you. Get the book Set the Outsider by Judith Page and Don Webb. It's a combination of more lighter aspects of working with Set, also the darker aspects that gives you both. The books I mentioned earlier, the Draconian Ritual book and Set the Fury of Egypt, which are these two books here, this one here, and this one here. I probably wouldn't utilize this if she's not really trying to go full left-hand path. These are more intenser and intense, all right? Even if she wants to go a little more in The Seven Faces of Darkness by Don Webb is another good book. All right, so hopefully that helps you and answers your question. All right, what else we got? All right, Matthew. The book Draconian, the Draconian Egyptian ritual book that I put up by Bill Davenduck that I had here last week that I showed, it'll give you, it'll answer a couple of your questions there to work with the various, it works with all the various Kemetic gods. It's got a ritual specifically in there for the Lady of the Flame set. That would be a great ritual to get her intention. So I would suggest you seek that book out, and then obviously you can get creative and make any changes you feel see fit. And as far as astral projection, definitely tune in next Thursday, August 1st. We're going to be going into that in depth with Father Sebastian, but some books I could throw out to you there. His book, Vampire Magic, is a very good book with astral projection. Second Apep, that somebody mentioned earlier. Another good book, the Draconian Ritual book, and that same book that I mentioned earlier by Bill Davenduck, the Draconian Egyptian book, is another good book for that. All right. For the sake of time, yes, we will be sharing some in-depth techniques on the astral traveling on next Thursday's show. That is one of the topics on the agenda with Father Sebastian. Okay. All right. So Yvette's question: once you have identified Apep in the middle of the night, how do you shut him up so you can deal back? That's a good question, and go back to sleep. That's a very good question. First and foremost, if, as I said earlier, Set appears or manifests to us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, always in the wee hours of the night, from midnight till dawn, where you might find yourself awake at night just worrying or having anxiety about certain things, about money, job, career, profession, relationships. That's when Apep comes. The story of Ra's journey into the underworld is talking about that same thing. The best way to quell that chaos, here's one thing that I've done. An invocation with Ampu, and keeping an image of Ampu by your bed, asking him to give you some of the solutions and answers to the things you might be worrying about or stressing, and giving you clarity on it, and also do an invocation saying before you go to sleep, have him also communicate to you via the dream realm when you go back to sleep. If you invoke him, you will see a calming energy will start to overcome you. You will get back to sleep, but ask for that communication to continue and clarity to continue via your dreams. I found that to be effective when that happens. All right. What else we got? Mitchell Ford, thank you for the donation. Appreciate it. No, you do not have to surround a Sajil with a circle. That is not mandatory. Now, I don't work a lot of ceremonial. That's more like, in my opinion, I can throw some stuff out there for you. It's just me. That's more my opinion, like Golden Dawn, middle of the line stuff. Israel Regardi has some good works. You could check him out. You could always look into, which I am a third degree member of the Order Templi Orientis. A lot of Crowley's works, a lot of his Libras have a lot of ceremonial magic in there. I would look along those lines. Order of the Golden Dawn, a lot of their publications and works, you can find a lot of ceremonial magic. I'll be honest with you, I don't really do work with a lot of ceremonial magic. We do group ritual workings, but they're not really ceremonial magic. They're more focused on a specific intent. They're not really as structured, because in those group rituals, not only is we have a collective goal, but everybody has an individual experience in those rituals. So that's something I could throw out to you real quick. Okay, what else we got? Cinnamon and sage, yes. There's a good ritual in the Black Ship book by Malthus. He has a whole ritual how you can put a spiritual barrier on the inner and the outer portion of your house. He shows you how you go about doing it, how you walk the outside of the house, the different elements you use as far as incense and ritualistic tools. Yes, I would. My recommendation, yes, you can find in other systems to do that, like IFA, etc. But if you're looking for a left-hand path aspect of doing that, I would suggest you'll see a section in the Black Ship book where it shows how to build that protection barrier around the inner and the outer portion of your house. So I would check that book out. All right. All right. And then the last question. Matthew Watson, what can I do to keep a succubus from getting too out of control? You personally, and again, that's probably something we'd have to get more information on exactly. And again, for time's sake, we wouldn't be able to do it here right now. How long you've been spiritual working for something that's out of control. Have to get more dynamics. That's a tough question to just answer openly. Usually stuff's not really something, there's just too many dynamics to that. We would have to first identify in depth what's going on via different methods, and then attack it from there. All right. So we're going to probably stop there because I probably extended my time. Lady Vega Star, see you got here late. The video will upload in a few minutes, so you'll be able to catch everything that we discussed as soon as I get off. But I'm out now because my time is up for the evening. I can't stay on much longer. If you even go into the archives of the channel, there are several videos, different videos, going through the deity set. This is not the first one. So I would suggest when you get time, go to the archives, and this video you'll be able to play back as soon as this post. So, all right, people, my time is up. I probably went over about 20 minutes more than I was supposed to. I have to get off this puppy and attend to some other stuff. So again, I appreciate everybody watching and supporting the channel. Appreciate everybody that's made donations. I appreciate everybody that signed up for the online classes. I'll see you guys on Saturday. And if you need to contact me for any of the things we discussed or any of the announcements we made, and then the whole list of shows for the next 2 months are going to kick off this Thursday with Bokor Rodney Coleman. So I'll see everybody on Thursday night. All right. Peace.